Welcome back, everyone, to the DreamHack Open featuring Fortnite. We just finished our European Grand Finals, and it was an intense 6 hours of Fortnite action. But now joining me, I have Balla TW and Shio Wager. Guys, were you able to watch those finals?
Absolutely, we were. That was one of the best grand finals I think we've ever seen, and it was long, too long and grueling. We got to do it again for NA. Some people fresh, some people not so fresh.
I feel like I was at the front, basically seat section of a crowd with how close it was with the top five, and we still have a few more European players for NA to keep playing with the double qual that's going on, so it's going to be so much fun to watch.
Yeah, do you know any of those players off the top of your head?
I mean, the man for me has to be Savage. Benji, I believe, is there too, and there's so much. So there's a few more there, Balla, right?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different players who are still participating in the NA, so we'll keep track of all of them as things go through, but those are two of the big ones for sure. Mongrel too, like you could just name a bunch.
It'll be pretty crazy. I mean, if it's anything like Europe, where there was a 5-point difference, one elimination from Mr. Savage would have put him tied for first. So I'm hoping we get something like that. It was a lot of back and forth. There were a few consistent players, Mr. Savage being one of them, but there was a lot of players that were doing poorly at the start of the game and then rocketed it up all the way to the top. Speaking of the top, let's take a look at the top 20 North American East players that we saw coming out of the semifinals yesterday. 500 players entered. They had 3 hours to complete 10 games, and this is where they stood towards the end of that. Frist at top, we have Liquid Stretch in second, and then FaZe Dubs in third.
This top three has been like the #1 prediction that stays for the finals for a bunch of players, a bunch of pros, a bunch of analysts. They feel like these guys will continue to just dominate in these grand finals for NA East. For me, Frist is one of those guys who I think can get that double back-to-back championship.
It feels like, in terms of what we see at the top, it feels a little bit like the invitational that we saw going into the grand finals, but Frist and Stretch may be one of the few who are actually up here. I see, of course, Dubs, but I do want to point out Vevi, the Irishman from EU, who placed 4th yesterday with 3 victory royales out of the, I think, 9 games that he played. That is absolutely ridiculous to do on opposite ping.
Yeah, and like the way that he played too was not passive by any means. He was going straight for box fights. It felt like he was a man who was on this region. When we first saw him, we were kind of confused as to never seen this man play too much NA East before, but quickly realized that he's literally just a phenomenal beast at the game.
I mean, they're all beasts at the game, though. This lobby for North American East is stacked. Do you guys have any favorite players that we weren't able to see in the top 20?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. I'm looking forward to see if Mr. Savage can continue his reign of terror basically through EU. But for me, there's a bunch. Walkman is one of those. Who Fishy is one of those. There's a bunch of names. Also, Booga making his first appearance in the DreamHack Grand Finals. That'll be interesting to see how he performs. Same thing with Clicks as well.
For me personally, Bucky FBS, who had a touch of the top 20 in semis, but then kind of just fell all the way downwards between the bottom 50 and top 100. This man has been the pioneer for a few endgame metas when it comes to solos, had one of the best videos in going to the World Cup. And I just hope that now we finally get to see all the skills he's learned for the last year develop and put down for this last moment.
What I'm excited to see is how exactly these top players are going to be changing up their play style going into this game. We did see it with Europe, that a few players changed up their drop spots a bit, trying to shake things up. And let's take a look at the map right now to see what you guys are going to be predicting for where these players are going to be landing and the action is going to be taking place.
Okay, so to start things off, personally, what I'm looking at is literally the entire south side of the map right here. Caddy Corner, Misty Meadows, highly contested by many big names. At Misty specifically, if you just get a little bit zoomed in there, we have Paper and Stretch. We're going to be fighting off in the actual battle of the POI. Around it, Ruby Fight is on the left side, just near those mountains, near those actual houses. And then at Caddy, the big boy Frist, we already know, we talked about him. He's #1 in the semifinals. Can he continue to use that Shockwave launcher? Sometimes, though, we saw him all the way over at Steamy Stacks, so he has this big range of just playing both the north and the south side, dominating over the whole map. I wonder where he will actually be.
And we saw that range kind of come into effect in EU, the way that people were able to carry it over. But one big thing I want to note, obviously the yacht was really good for Mr. Savage. He was fighting one player there for the majority of the time until that last game where three players came, and he's fighting potentially Booga if the research is correct. So that could be a really, really big fight. He already said on Twitter he's full sending. Authority in NA East will be even more contested than it was on EU, so that will be very, very interesting to watch. Players like Cease are dropping there. And there's still also the vault down at Rickety Rig will be interesting too. Basically though, there's a lot of volatility in drop spots, and that's why we saw people from EU switch up places from Caddy Corner to Fortilla, a bunch of different things going on around the map. Lazy Lake, there was a couple different engagements that we had to pay attention to. I think our winner will not come from one of the major spots like Caddy Corner or the Authority, because as we've seen, it gets very, very contested. But some of these smaller POIs that have really decent loot, if you can get it, fairly uncontested, and that's going to be the key as we've seen multiple grand finals in a row.
Yeah, we actually got to interview Sebi at the end of our European Grand Finals. He placed 11th, and he was saying how in Caddy Corner, it was just a toss-up whether you were going to get the loot or not. And by the time he usually made it to the Caddy Corner, the mythic weapon was already gone. But I'm really excited to get into the game. And if you guys are just joining us right now for the DreamHack Open, you might not know exactly what's going on. So let's break down the tournament structure real quick before we go into a break. We had on Friday our Stage 1 competitions. That's the open heats. Each region had 2 heats with hundreds of thousands of players competing for the top 250 spots. With 2 heats and 250 players each, we went to the semifinals yesterday on Saturday, where 500 players had 10 games and 3 hours to try and collect the most amount of points through eliminations and by placements. Out of that 500, 100 moved on to today, the grand finals, where they're going to be competing for their share of the $250,000 prize pool. And I know Teak is happy walking away with $16,000, and the difference between first place and second place is $8,000, which I don't think Mr. Savage is upset about.
No, I don't think so at all. I think for him, he really even doesn't care about the money. He just cares about the glory and trying to get to that first place. I DM'd him a little bit. It sounded like he was maybe a little disappointed, but you can't be disappointed about a second place. And Mr. Savage is always ever so positive. So we'll see what is going to happen on NA. A lot of different emotions and a lot of different mentalities when it comes to how high you can place in these games. And with grand finals, I don't have to tell anybody. It's 100 players over and over and over. We just saw it in EU, and that really does make things all the more interesting.
Well, I want to go off of what you just said there, Bala, that some of these players, their mentality is really good. What are some of the good players here that don't get tilted?
You're talking NA East, Kelly. You're talking NA East. It is rough out here in terms
They all
of
get, okay.
I mean, seriously, no, it really is true. I mean, even players like Rogue Shark, who you used to think have the most positive mentality and consistency to go game after game after game, have been really getting affected by the rest of the environments. It's tough out here, and I understand it. Battle Royales are really, really difficult to stay motivated game after game. Again, if you fall off spawn or if something unfortunate happens to you, you are waiting upwards of 30 minutes until the next game, and that is really hard to do just sitting there twiddling your thumbs.
Yeah, Shayo, any other players that you want to highlight that we weren't able to take a look at at this time?
In terms of highlights, I just want to say one thing. We were looking at a race yesterday. Bala mentioned the tilt mentalities. Today it's going to be an absolute fight at every POI. It's going to be drama time and time again. A long episodic series of 8 games in NA East. Past that, though, not much else to say.
Well, for me, I'm really excited to take a look at what one of our players that's in the top 5, that's Vevi, he's in 4th place coming out of the semifinals, has to say about the tournament.
My name is Vevi or Jack, and I placed 4th in the DreamHack semifinals. Playing with 100 ping is really, it's a whole different game, but it does make me play more passive, more slow, and sometimes that works out for me as I'm a very fast-paced player. My favorite landing spot is the Authority, and even though there's 6 pros going there, I'm going to be contesting it. Before a tournament, I usually just hop into creative for an edit course or 2, free build for a bit, and then I hop into arena for a few hours before a tournament. I'm pretty confident that Mr. Savage is going to win this month's DreamHack on Europe servers, and I think Vency Fishy is going to pop off in NA East. I usually keep my nerves calm before a big tournament by going outside for 5 minutes or so, get some fresh cells, blast some cold water in my face, and I go back in and give it my all. for tonight, I'm just gonna land agency, even though there's 6 other pros there. I'm gonna land there and hope that I do well. I'm hoping for a top 20 at least. Thanks for watching the video. Good luck in finals for whoever's playing. Have fun watching the finals today.
I like it. I like the confidence. He said, like, you know, even I'm still going to land an agency, even though there's 6 other players there. That's the confidence that you need going into the grand finals.
And I like the confidence from him. I mean, we just said that word a bunch, but he was out there looking to get interviewed. You don't see that much in Fortnite. That's something to definitely want to shout him out for, because people are a little shy when it comes to talking on screen and stuff. So I love it from Vevi and hope to see him do really well today.
All right. Well, I want to get into the game as soon as possible. I know that our viewers are really excited to get into the grand finals for our North American East region. But Shayo, any expectations or anything that you want to see in game number 1?
For me, I want to see these kind of low riders actually shine in the earlier on games. People like Gabe, I'm looking at my other screen here. People like Jelty, who really popped off and slid way up the rankings to the top 10, top 15 in the last 2 games. I want to see what happens in their first few and how the leaderboard kind of flips over from the bottom to the top. I mentioned it with Bucky, but let's see if the top 10 from semis can hold their spot here in the first few games.
And for me, expectations, I have a lot riding on a bunch of different players. I'm not going to put anybody on the spot, but I want people to come out strong. And I want to see those people who haven't necessarily been able to perform in grand finals in the customs environment to really do well. I'm thinking, you know, Commandment had his crazy performance in the open stage and also clutching up for the semis to make it here today. So that's somebody I do put a lot of expectations on, but we'll have to see how he performs.
Well, we're about to find out how he performed. A few minutes chat. We do have game number 1 ready to go for the North American East Grand Finals, and we'll get right to it after this quick break.
Hey guys, Shayo Wager here with DreamHack. We're going to be listening, reacting, and then rating songs. I believe we're listening to a few today. It's going to be cool. Let's see what I like and don't. Okay, that's a 3 plus 2, 5. Quick maths. Great, I like it. It's like Kendrick on a pop song vibe. I like it. Look at me now. Hey, look this way, look at me now. Hey, look this way, look at me now. Better have a sick drop. Oh. All right, cool. That was the end of the song. Nice. I'm gonna give that one a nice 3 out of 5 DreamHacks. Nice song. It feels like I'm getting prepped for something. And if the other songs are even better, that's gonna be even better too. All right. Not sure what instrument this is. Cool. Sounded like we're getting to a game show. For me, that's a 2 out of 5 rating right there. I don't play games. I'm a serious man. Next song. All right. This is the one. Katy Perry. Yeah. This is easy. This is it. That's like something amazing is about to happen. We're about to get lit. 5 out of 5 for me, Shio certified rating. Thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in to what I think about music. Tune in for more DreamHack featuring Fortnite. My name's Shio Wager. More stuff's coming up. Pressure, stress, and hype. It's all here for game 1 of NA East. The first stories that are about to start and have culminated over this past weekend. My name is Shio Wager, joined here by the analytical, the beautiful Bala TW, and we're going to be guiding you through all these amazing 8 games today.
And there's so much expectations on so many people, but most of all, themselves on themselves to put themselves up at the top, trying to get to be the grand champion of DreamHack, at least for NA East. We saw one crowned already, that's Teak, and then next weekend we'll also be crowning one for NA West. So as we get ready for game 1 and get ready to see how these drop spots break down, we basically got to figure out where things are going to go. Frist, obviously first place. We were talking about it, Shio, a lot, riding on what he's going to be doing in these first couple of games.
Yeah, I mean, he has the potential for the most amount of wins because it looks like on paper, there's not many people who are going to be contesting him at Caddy Corner. We saw how that changed over in EU, though, with so many people dropping in. Let's see, though, how that goes. Here's the overall semis leaderboard from what we saw yesterday. First, you mentioned all the way up top, Animal coming in down at 20th, but so many people in between.
Yeah, and what I want to look at is 17th. Paper was playing out of his mind and has been playing out of his mind over the course of the DreamHack tournament and the last couple of weeks, just playing very, very well and increasing. He basically was, I mean, back when even squads playing with Nosh and stuff like that, that didn't necessarily put it on paper to be the one carrying that squad, but all of a sudden he's here and everybody else right now is not.
Yeah, there's some kind of sleeper picks too who were playing really well in the Souls Invitationals, had their first kind of come up and spotlight between solos, trios, and all their competitions. Skittles was a player who was near that top spot a lot of the times in a lot of games, being in positions we've never seen other players in before. Right now, he's 18th, right under Paper, 188 points overall, or just in placement points overall. A good balance between both getting eliminations and playing the game. I want to see if he can rise up in those charts as well. But that being said, NA East has a little bit of a sprinkle of EU, a big region that's also contesting them today, which hasn't really been seen so far in DreamHack before.
No, it hasn't. And as we hop into game number 1, we'll continue to discuss that, but we are hopping in. First game out of 8, a marathon is ahead for all these players and us as we determine who is going to be the grand champion. Hopping on board with Cease, but again, we think about what the things or what the drop spots are that are most important to us. I think of the Authority where Cease is going to. I think of the Yacht where Booger and Mr. Savage are.
It's about holding your ground, and no one actually knows who's going to be where. You mentioned it, we're looking at Authority, and that's what we're going to be tuning in with. It's 100 Thieves Cease, and there's already a few people in the sky right beside him. Who's going to land first, get their weapons down? Illest already taken out from the game before Cease ends up landing. There's 2 people side by side. He has an SMG. He's ending stories before they can even begin. NA East is off with a huge start.
Yeah, it is. Vevi landing on the outskirts. Cease is trying to chase down Mongrel, who had a pickaxe on the other player that we didn't necessarily see, but I think Mongrel finally might be able to find a gun. Yes, but Cease is still right behind him. Rogue Shark now, and they can't really build any walls there. It's only stairs. He backs away, even though he did some decent damage, but with the crash pads now, he can get right up into the box, and Rogue Shark might be unprepared for that.
Yeah, we've seen the combination of crash pads and charge pumps just put down in all different durations of the game, early and late. But we'll be tuning in all the way towards the Fortilla. Aperta, who I haven't actually seen too much of, is going up against Creo. So prestigious player versus someone who's just trying to put his name down onto the map, and he has the edits to do so already.
Saw little of Aperta in duos. FNCS, Creo, obviously we didn't see much of him in duos FNCS, but he's back, and back with a vengeance, taking first place in the Elite Cup. And we'll see where he goes here today. Obviously played so well at the World Cup, made him a millionaire, but now a 1v1 fight to start things off in DreamHack. 0 materials, probably for both sides. That's the fighting conditions we have at the Fortilla. He gets the drop, only a charge shotgun for Aperta, and gets away. Oh, turns the corner, and Creo's now down and out.
way more than money on the line for Creo. Now his mentality is at risk. Game 1 getting taken out that early in just a 1v1. You have to be thinking about what he has to do next.
Yeah, you do. And I'm not seeing anybody else on the minimap for Aperta. So there are people in the vicinity, Smacked and Jaro, in a fight a little bit farther north. I'm thinking, where is Dubs? Because he lands at the Fortilla. But now this fight will have to go to completion, I believe. Although Smack does have a lot of materials, this is not super early. This fight goes up. A couple trades, another box made for Smack, but no shield. So this will end up completing a nice big tag. He gets the advantage now.
Jar's moving really fast, but Smack is using that to his advantage, pre-editing and making sure he can get a shot off on Jar before he has that height advantage. Mats are now running low for both players, though just 5 left on Smack. Once again, we're seeing decoys used. The last time the person who did was the winner. We tuned in here with Zextro, who's going up against Iamzo. And this fight is somewhere near, I believe, the Orchard. We'll see Zextro at a very even pacing with the Iamzo back-to-back, but this is going to be a man who has a name behind him versus one who's trying to build it once again, the same pattern at all these POIs, but it's 1v1s all around here in this early game.
Yeah, it is. He's at the Orchard trying to hold on, and this will determine a lot. Just like you said for Creo too, 2 big names right away taken out by 2 smaller names, but clearly here today, they're here to fight. And they will move on. Orchard, a pretty decent spot, especially if you can start to push off. But we know that Zextro will not be leaving. He is too confident for that. Smacked, still in the same fight against Jaro. And he will possibly be able to reset. Yes, he's going to rotate this ramp. But Jaro's right on top of him, still giving it an opportunity. No materials, which means this will go to a 50-50. If he gets a little too low, possible reset all the way from the bottom.
This fight's going to be completely just dry now. I don't think Jaro has much as well when it comes to resources, playing so close around his build. Smack trying to take everything down. He does have less shields overall, so he must land the first shot. I believe it might be attack versus attack.
Knocks him down. He's in the bush now. Oh no, Smack doesn't know. Thankfully, Jaro rotates the ramp in the wrong direction. Here's the 50-50 you're talking about, but Bush will be making it so easy for Smack because you can't see into that. While Smack can get the ADS, get the nice shots down onto Jaro, so he's down and out. Now on the other side of the map, we're getting a lot of different perspectives. It's D-Gen against Rich Homie Blonde. Another 50-50 right in the box because, again, low materials. And it makes sense because Dirty Doc's still mostly underwater, not much to farm, especially in the buildings. D-Gen will win and start his rise up to the top in terms of points, as everybody else is too. One thing to note, we just came from EU, now we're into NA East, and as we know about NA East, it is way more passive after the first early game fights, and also possibly a lot less early game contests, even though we've seen a lot so far. We're at 88 players. First zone has started to move now. That means people are going to be less focused about fighting and gaining space in their early drop, and more focused about getting towards those Storm Surge bases.
Yeah, when it comes to EU, there's a lot of landing at a POI and then stretching on afterwards. But you're looking at NA East, we're seeing a lot of people fighting at loot pads that don't really have a connection to many different buildings. And then these main fights at big POIs at the Authority lasting for so long ceases. They're still taking people out. Bevy, he was confident in the interview, but here in game 1, he's taken out.
Still saw some confidence there to fight against Cease, but jumped the gun a little too early. Cease knew he was in that room, and also trying to get the right shoulder peek. As soon as he crossed it, thought that he had the advantage, but no, Cease was waiting for it. And unfortunately, he didn't get the nicest first shot off. Rogue Shark looks to have either been fallen to his elimination or maybe something else, but he's out of the game for now, and nobody gets the credit for that elim, so definitely curious on what happened there.
These European players have to be sneaky. The ping disadvantage on both sides makes it so that these box fights are not going to be the most ample place to be in. Redux getting elimination there on the bottom left, so a bunch of people around the map putting their points up. But it will be a lot more tactical for at least 1/10 of the lobby. I believe we have about 6 to 8 double qualified players from Europe. And these guys were all placing within that top 20, top 50 range. Tayson shooting down Spike, his original target, Snazy, but the scope sways over, and one of our own takes the shot. Versa, who I think qualified at the 100th place slot, is going to be up against Elige and Trey, who were near that 50th to top 30. So we'll see if he can just climb up the ranks this early, this fast. On the backside of Elige, multiple shots taken down. He's beamed low, and now he's active in the fight.
And EU players playing aggressively, possibly given the fact that they might be a little bit more exhausted given what they just went through if they played in that. First beams will not actually convert into an elim, unfortunately. Versa doesn't have the tools he needs to get inside of that box, especially with ping. And you're right, he did place 100th. I also want to point out that two double quad players that we were just watching with Snazy and Tayson, both of them placed within the top 10. Tayson at 7th, and Snazy placed 3rd even. So those are two players who, if they start keying each other, they're going after their own blood, but also have the potential to place highly.
Some of the words we mentioned in the pre-show were confidence, drama, fights, and tension. And that will happen when you see people like Creo losing out fights early. When you see European players already playing 5 hours of competition, then turning on their streams and choosing a more chiller vibe. Meanwhile, Commandment and Bucky, players of high caliber, are putting their all into full serious mode. Right now, Stacky's taking shots. Active in the late game, but we're back with Versa. He takes out Trey. 5 points. And his story starts off strong. Elige, though, still at the bottom, hasn't healed up fully. But just take a look at that mini-map. Take a look at the ambiance of NA East overall. Just 5 people have gone down in maybe the last 2 minutes. Everyone is waiting and watching already while the first or second zone is starting to close in.
You have to be so careful right now. With the abundance of snipers in this game, I mean, we saw Stacky hit a 200 from a hunting rifle shots. With the abundance of snipers, rotating right now is probably one of the most nerve-wracking things on NA East. Because the goals is trying to find yourself a nice, good power position to get some Storm Surge tags, as we have more than 80 players, or more than 70 players still alive. And if you can't get that, you still have to be looking for tags. So you have to kind of expose yourself while rotating or while looking for tags. And at the same time, there's so many snipers that could just put you straight down with no warning whatsoever.
And that's the difference between semifinals and grand finals. A lot of the time, people don't have complete game plans for the game. They have their drop figured out. They have an end game practice routine. But the mid game in grand finals, when you don't have people falling down, when you have passive play, it's that much harder. There's a bunch of, I'm not going to say no names, but undefined people who haven't gotten the practice. Chaotic, though, is not one of them. He knows when to pounce on fights, getting straight close by, box to box on the next beat. He gets completely removed, and now he's set in a better position. He gets all the pressure that Nexi created, and he can look for more shots.
That was well done from Chaotic. Starting off with a ramp up, flipping it because he realized he boxed up, and then ARing into the box. The replay unfortunately lagged a little bit, but it was the setup that was perfect. Went through that sidewall, knew he was escaping. Benji with a nice shot on the Kaz, also clinical. The cone block to finish off what happened. He did not just run away. In this case, Benji on EU as well. Obviously, if you don't know who Benji is.
I mean, he's hot. The man is always a ball of fire when it comes to box fights, and it is a story of hot versus cold right now for these European versus NA players. They've been playing for 5 hours, Bala, and this is the first game for a lot of people on NA East. Maybe they dabbled in the Daily Cheerio Cup, but now by yourself, no comms available, you versus the world. You're going to be seeing multiple different mentalities clash. Oh God, no way. Cody already starting things off, holding nothing back. The nade strat coming in, not sure what the individual was doing over there all the way out in the water, but he was caught way too far offshore.
Yeah, and you can't even, you have to swim away from these nades, and that's even more uncomfortable. Everybody knows the feeling of having bombs drop directly on top of you with no warning whatsoever. Frantically building, frantically trying to go in separate directions, but unfortunately, Cody will find himself an elim. Get right back over to land, though zone, he's still out on the side, and Rehan might be able to take some shots on him. Yes, he spots him. This could get really dicey for Cody, given the amount of players on this side of zone.
Rion has to be careful. It's not all free for him. We saw Polarized, one other player as well, who's next to him in this base. In EU, we saw a lot more free movement at this point. Bala mentioned passivity or just being a little bit more passive in NA East. This is what ends up happening. Early bases, you don't see them in many other regions, and that's what I mean when you tunnel vision for the picks. You're never safe. Brick Metal doesn't matter. He's already getting pressured by Crash Pads with a quick clap back on the Polarized. The angle's so uncomfortable, but Rihan actually holds out slightly longer. The patience pays off, and he gets a free Elam.
What is that idea from Polarized? I started to like it at first because he crash padded him out of his box and almost got a nice shot. That was interesting to say the least from Polarized, but then making the crucial mistake to heal on that side. I'm wondering what's going on there. It will make him go back to the lobby, unfortunately. Now we're looking at third zone. Storm Surge is active currently, right now. It will be ticking on 4 people, 4 players. Animal slightly above 91, but this is a perfect opportunity for people to get some free eliminations as players make desperate plays to get out from underneath that Storm Surge threshold.
I'm scared for Animal right now. We saw what happened to someone who was just by himself in a 1-by-1 on the water. Degen's close by. If he has nades, this would be the perfect opportunity to drop them.
Great tags. That player now under pressure from so many different angles, and all he needs to do is get the final shot, and he does. Well done from Animal, already off to a much better start than he did at the last DreamHack Grand Finals he participated in. Puts him at 5 points. Animal, somebody who hopefully will be able to perform at least at the semifinals level. An OG in the scene, and still so good on Team Sentinels.
So good be enough. Just look at the minimap. How do you move in this zone? Complete water all around you. A few shores dominated by players who do not want you boarding their lane space. Dub's having trouble in his own 1-by-1 this early in the game. This man placed in the top 3. Now he's getting focused by more than 3 sides of his box.
I know everybody seems to have changed their mind about water playing a big impact in the game since Season 3 launch, but you can see the trouble that Dubs is having. He's down and out. Stretch will pull a couple of heals, yes. And he gets the harpoon on Kotal. He might want to W key this. You've seen Stretch play aggressively, but no. He's still got the game sets under lock, and there it is. Frist has the shockwave launcher, no eliminations, but plenty of loot. And I have to expect that he also opened up the vault at Caddy Corner. So what does that mean going forward?
It means that this man might be uncontested in many games. This means that unconfident people might be dropping at the spot and just facing him off in a 1-on-1. No rules, match off, face off, but his match are looking low right now, no matter what his early game looked like. His mid and end game might be troublesome.
Player directly above him. He's not in the zone yet. Neither are the two. I'm not surprised, or I'm not sure why the player above is not moving just yet. I don't think that little wood plank there is actually in the game. I think it's farmed out. That's why it's kind of jarring a little bit, but also not farming. Oh, player gets in his box. He has to go back in his zone, but he makes it work. Blitz goes down, but so does Frist, as everybody is taking huge advantage of anybody not moving at the same time. Trash to get a tunnel forward towards it with the metal, hoping that there's extra builds there, and I think there will be. Divine moving forward straight towards Benji, but we continue to collapse this zone, and it continues to shrink on top of water. Fourth is revealed. That gives us an idea of where the power positions will be as we approach the end game in fifth. But none of the hills, as of right now, seem to be in. Possibly that one that we saw directly on the left is Divine as he moved in, where Gage is on the left side.
Still just barely in, though. Every position, you're going to have to fight for it at some point when the next zone also locks in. 62 players just spells a huge amount of Spurs, and Divine turns the spell on, putting disaster with that hunting rifle onto the battlefield and starts moving on forward with the crash pad, freestyling midair.
I like this. On to Cease. He knows Cease And where he lands, he knows there's potential for really, really good loot, and he also spots it, gets a launch pad off of it, and now if he gets pressured, he has the opportunity to use the crash pad to get back in and not have to worry about it at all, and I think that's exactly what he had to do. There he is, and he has that old base to get right back on top of, but getting beamed from both sides, the front and back. He gets in that base, though, and this is a decently built metal structure.
So overall, his goals were completed. If you have sniper rifles, usually towards the end of the game, they're very difficult to play with. He gets to trade that out for an extra shield and upgrades his AR to a legendary variety.
In addition to getting an elim on one of the most impactful players in the lobby in 100 Thieves is Cease. Paper on a bad sniper. He also puts himself up 5. And potentially a nice refresh as we head into 5th zone. The timing on this is very important. Another one too, that's Paper starting to play very aggressive and potentially getting himself into a great position for endgame aggro. Somebody trying to shock or crash pad into his box. It's Diggy, and he will punish him hard. Diggy potentially needed an impact for himself, but aggro will turn that situation and make him the free refresh.
Up to this point, anyone that got taken out with no eliminations, I feel like Diggy, Polarized, a few names like Creo, have gotten 0 points. Placement has not been given out. We just hit top 50. Narwhal's one individual who gets to actually survive. He gets eliminations all throughout the mid game. Benji's also moving out here.
Rihan, we saw take some shots earlier on the outskirts of the map. He did catch zone on the southeast portion. Benji has gotten in. KJ Rop is the player who has the highest position, but that won't last for long, although still nobody launching into zone. A very cautious approach. Actually, I misspoke about KJ Rop. He's on the other side. He still has to go in. Animal, no mobility. This is looking rough for him, but there's a crash pad that he might be able to touch. Yes! Nobody breaks it out, but it knocks his head up, and all of a sudden there's a player on the backside, and he won't survive. Mooney will take him out, but they're all moving now with zone on their backside, and everything will be now fired back upon them. Here's the landing spot that everybody's deciding. KJ Rop does hold a little bit of height. Benji also in a little bit of a box fight with only 72 mats. He might decide to hop in, but no, Benji a little bit more control. No, he's gonna go for it. He's gonna go for height. Benji is taking it, and he might be able to hold on from here, but no launch pad, no mobility. So I don't know how long that will last. Rihan also picking up an elim just in time, and that's plenty of materials on his low ground base.
And while all these guys had action coming into the circle, people like Booga, Aggro, basically had a widescreen theatrical view of these rotations. They know where all the weak spots are, unconfident, beamed players. It's information basically versus speed at the moment, and everyone's kind of over towards the left side of the zone. The zone pulls down towards the south, over, I think, possibly a slight hill or mountain, but then back down into a lake, into water. So this will be a very hard rotation for a bunch of players. What will Benji do with minimal mats and no rotation?
He's trying to force out some mobility from somebody, as 6 zone will push it directly across. But this is probably the first time and last time I'll mention this, because I see a lot of EU players in this. Remember, 3 out of 6 the last time that EU played in a solo tournament with NA on their ping, and he does force out the launch pad.
Forcing out the launch next to so many volatile players, though. We saw what Moody did to Animal. These guys are all towards the bottom side of the top 100. They have playstyles you cannot predict, but everyone is in the sky. If you're on the ground, you might just be a one person in no man's land. Finally, though, people build up. They start to just reuse, reduce, recycle their mobility and make boxes rubified on the box beside Benji. The charge pump hissing, but does not strike. He just stays calm. 1 elim overall. It's a stalemate mostly. Gets a little bit of attack, but he has to move around and up. His mats are running out. Meanwhile, Savage on the downside is just big chilling. Bully tries to go for a height play, just barely misses. Crash pads all around her. Already in storm with Benji. He's looking desperate.
Another launch pad found, though. No mats, as this is the key for him. Now drops down low ground, trying to outlast as much as he can. Jaden Shots is in the box on the backside. He has to cover all angles. There's one. He misses the shot. Jaxie takes him out. Stretch is alive, too. He gets tabs G. Chaotic in a mid-ground layer with a lot of builds. He should be able to survive for sure. But low ground, I see a lot of names who were down there who are down and out.
And it's time to run it back for the whole server, low and high. We're going right back on the same angle over land. Walkman, Chaotic have advantage, and we're tuning in with Chaotic and Trashy, both POVs of low and high. Booga, though, is one player fighting for height. Narwhal, who got a nice pick earlier on, is up there. We see Trashy with his fourth pick or second pick of the game. Booga's just staying low-key as Trashy flies above. He will be the man of the hour with Kit's whole kit available to him to just play around with. Narwhal, though, is on height.
But only 2 rockets for Trashy to actually shockwave up, and he's also revealed that he's the player, so Narwhal might start to pressure him down. Chaotic on low ground, might get a shot. Yes, that's Stacky down. Looking more, reloading, making sure everything will be key. Yes, another one. 2 kills in a row as Chaotic is the next target. Also have another one up above, can't quite see that. It's Trashy, yes, I think he's out of shockwaves. He also needs to get a refresh. One player, if he gets the elimination, might have the rockets he needs to sky all the way up on top of Narwhal. Chaotic still in the box as well. Slack, Stretch, Booga all alive.
It's a rain of bullets and the storm is not stopping. Stretch, Booga, side by side near the low ground. Narwhal still controlling height, but it's completely chaotic. There's no way that anyone has time to even breathe or think. Finally, though, the shots start to simmer down. Trashy, low on mats, no more rockets left. Only has to play beside himself, box to box. There is a little bit of loot above him, but can he see it? He's gonna go for a big shot here. Everything for this next bullet. Aggro is looking for a patient play on height. Narwhal somehow still controlling it. Down below, Bucky looms and Skittles goes down to Trashy. He still has chunk splashes to play over with the storm. But is this his game to actually manipulate and play, or is he just surviving, diving into water, still no mats? Somehow he's alive.
Yeah, somehow he's alive. Bucky's right above him. Now he will jump right outside the water. Well played from him. That's a siphon, at least a couple 150 mats. Narwhal now dropping down on Chaotic. Chaotic can continue that rain, and he will. He brings Narwhal down to about 20 HP, and he drops behind him. Perfect play. The maneuver is well. 5 players left. Aggro down below, Trashy on top of him. Still has that shockwave. I'm not sure if he got some rockets off of that one refresh. Aggro will be the fight right now. Chaotic goes all the way up. Oh, Trashy! Another one on the Aggro. Rocks will finally take him out. It's Chaotic versus Rocks in the final 1v1.
They both have their own boxes. Chaotic is running out of mats completely. Just a few more left. Box to box. Rocks is taking all the shots, but surviving slightly. Chaotic has control of the builds in front of him. Chooses not to go for the shot. It's going to be a little bit of a patient game from both players, but you cannot drop down to ultimate low. There's too much water. Chaotic up top. Charge pump hits down hard, but he's so low too. And it's going to be Rocks who gets the first win. 80 points. That's game 1.
That is a ridiculous game. So many things led to so many threads. Obviously, you had Chaotic popping off in that one, and also you have to throw it to Trashy, who got that one elim on Frisk. We will be throwing to a quick break, and we'll be back with game 2.
What's up, everybody? My name is Fallout. I am a shoutcaster this weekend for the DreamHack Open and a shoutcaster for Fortnite. And today, however, as important as Fortnite is, we're going to be doing something way more important. We're going to be rating music, because you know how we get down here at DreamHack. We have some fun with it. So I'm going to be rating some songs on a scale of 1 to 10 Fallouts is the rating. Let's get started. Ooh. I get some very serious, like, 70s crime show vibes out of this one. If I'm at a club, I'm dancing to this. I'm dancing to this for sure. 100% dancing to this. I'm going to give that 6 Fallouts out of 10. Okay. This has some serious, like, garage band, you know, like someone made this on their Mac or something type of vibes to it. In comparison, especially to the other songs, I'm gonna give that 2.5 out of 10. I'm looking for like a nice EDM song with the bass drop, like my man Shio had. Where's that at?
Okay, here we go.
Ooh. Ooh. Yeah. My name is John Keffel. All the ladies say hello. My favorite color is yellow, and I eat a lot of Jell-O. It's got like a little bit of a Scandinavian, maybe an Icelandic type of fiddle to it. So I'm gonna give that a 4.5 out of 10. Yeah. DJ Ruben knows how to get me excited. This is what I'm talking about. It's summertime, 2020. I wish I was on a beach somewhere, you know, like a beach club or something. Listen to that song. I liked it. I'm a lot happier about that one. I'm going to give that one a 7.5 out of 10. 7.5 to close it out. Well, that's going to be it for me. Rating songs and giving them fallouts. I must say that was a first. Shout out to DreamHack. Stick around for some more Fortnite right after this.
Welcome back, everyone, to the DreamHack Open featuring Fortnite. We are done with game number 1 for North American East. If you guys are just joining us, we just recently finished the European finals, and we are now moving on to North American East, where we had who took first place there? It was Rox taking the victory royale there, but surprisingly enough, not actually in first place. He's actually in second, with Chaotic taking first place right now.
Yeah, that was a ridiculous game on so many fronts. Chaotic obviously popping off in ridiculous form, and then Trashy as well, who got the shockwave launcher off of Frist in that pick off the side of zone after Frist also got one. So after that, he managed to get so many people, but just not quite finding the mats he needed. Even though he got the eliminations, he wasn't able to loot. He didn't have the time, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was just the end game. Like, we saw a lot of people early get eliminated off too, who we expected to rise to the top very fast. So people like Creo taken out immediately. I think Mongrel also eliminated by Cease at authority. I don't know where we go from here though.
Well, let's take a quick look at the highlights that we saw from that game. Like you guys were saying that it was a very passive game at the start, but obviously the action started to pick up towards the mid and late game.
And I just have to laugh. Mohammed has been providing so much content. Unfortunately, got 0 points in the EU Grand Finals, but he's doing some interesting things in the early game that we have to pay attention to. This is what Shia was talking about, a Peta over Creo, and also some other names too. That's on the backside. Roat DW going down there in this fight. Smack played out of the bush onto Jaro as Mats ran out.
I've never seen these many 1v1s in a region, especially grand finals before. The name of Fortnite early game, mid game is always third partying. Sometimes you go into a 1v1 though, and it's not actually a player you face. There's no way Dijon just watches this happen. That's actually, he tries. So unfortunate. Sharks, man, it's season 3.
It's funny. It's like a plane. It's like a storm wing, but it's just a shark and no player control that just knocks you out of your builds. Fortunately, it just can't insta-elim you. But the end game was where we were talking about, Kelly. So many big plays. Stretch, we didn't see it on screen, but he was popping off on the backside too. 3 elims, the top 7 for him. That's a great performance. But this is the man of the hour, the man who stands in first place right now. 5 eliminations going into the final 1v1, but unfortunately, Rox plays from low ground and gets a wonderful 2-tack shot off on the high ground.
Yeah, great plays there from Rox and Chaotic. And to we don't have a graphic for you guys, but to just talk about the top 20 that we have, Chaotic is in first, and then we have Rox in second, Trashy is in third, we have Emozo in fourth, and then Narwhal on fifth. Is there any other players that you guys want to call out to real quick?
Personally, for me, I was most impressed by Stretch kind of breaking the curse of not showing up in game 1 after being the top 3 in semifinals. So I know Chaotic did the most in that game. Rock stopped him down, but Stretch being top 5 or top 10 at least, like when this man is even close towards these top placements, he never really goes away. If he ever does, he bounces back so strong. And that's where I've seen him just take first place in so many other competitions.
I want to go back to Trashy for a second, because this is a player that has not yet had to me, the performance in Grands or the performance at all on broadcasted events where he really should be where he is, right? Now he's in third place. Now he started off strong in game number 1. And I think that's the momentum he needs, because he really is a great player. If you haven't watched him, one of the best mechanical players currently, and to say that in a time like this where everybody is such a beast mechanically says a lot.
Shai, I want to talk to you a little bit about Emozo. He's definitely one of the lesser recognizable names that we see in the top 10 right now.
Yeah, so Iamzo for me is a player that is kind of on that same path of up and coming, has a friend group, is grinding. There's so many big names around him. The pressure is so much more different because you're trying to both impress your friends, be there for them as, like, you know, the shining spotlight, but then also develop a brand, a name for yourself in a lobby where you don't really have a lot of practice playing. We talked about it. It's not the same as semis. It's not the same as scrims. Grand finals is a whole different game plan. You barely ever get to practice.
Let's take a deeper look into what we saw in game number 1 there, and let's pull up the map and you guys take it away with where we saw some interesting POIs and where the rotations ended up happening.
Well, the game basically ended towards the left side of the map. I'm pretty sure this is kind of where the second zone ended up locking in, and we got a little bit closer to Weeping Woods. Seeing this, though, there were so many rotations that had to come in both from Caddy, from Steamy, from all the way around the map.
Yeah, there was a number of them, actually. You remember Dubs getting taken around somewhere around this area. You had Frisk coming in from the bottom side, tried to play on that dead side, which was in the south of this map. But everybody started basing up around these areas. I'm just going to draw little dots that basically show how many people were in this zone. And anybody coming in from the south, coming in from the water, even a player over here one time was trying to come in and edge his way forward, got taken out. I also want to talk about how the players tried to rotate through Weeping, but those trees are no longer blocking the area, the line of sights. We saw so many snipe shots that were so impactful. Animal going down to a sniper, Cease going down. No, Animal was actually a third party in the water as fifth zone move, but Cease going down to a sniper. There was a lot of headshot snipes in that one.
I mean, the biggest thing about this map currently is usually we have people who come in from one side of the map, maybe land Frenzy, but then double back to Triple Rock or go to Risky Reels from there, or maybe Pleasant Park, your fight's not going too well, so you double back somewhere else. Right now, all around the map on every single POI, whether you're at Holly, Fortia, Misty Meadows, a lot of people are in 1v1s. And because of that, early rotations aren't as fast. Even with Caddy not having people contesting, there's no one zooming straight to Lazy Lake to Retail Row. Everything's contained and you're in these 50-50 box fights so much faster.
All right, before we jump into game number 2, is there anything that you guys want to say? Any predictions that you have or something that you didn't see in game 1?
Yeah, I think this game is going to be drastically different from game number 1. That zone was quite unique, and also everybody else starting to get a feel for what is going to come. The Storm Surge will be a little bit better. At least the tactics will be a little better. The off-spawn fights have now been shown to see what is going to go on. So people like Creo are going to be a little bit more cautious, maybe choose a different approach. Seeing what the other opponents are doing just adds so much value to what your plan is.
Shayo, any expectations or predictions?
Well, kind of jumping on exactly what Bala said, there were different personalities in this game and a lot of loud ones that were not there in the end game. You said Creo, people who dominate off of height, people who don't actually end up going down as fast as people maybe like Iamzo, who is, yes, in 4th place right now. When he faces other top tier players that punish mistakes the moment they're shown, will he have the same performance in game 2? That's what I'm just basically watching to see.
And I know everyone at home is watching as well. We have game number 2 coming up right after this quick break.